Hello there, my fabulous instructional design students. I am creating this video today to give you an overview of filling out the lesson plan form so that you can turn it in for those assignments. So the lesson plans, you have 2 of them due for this course, and you may do them on any topic, subject area that you like. But if you go, I'm going into course content, I'm scrolling down and I'm finding the lesson plans. You have a number of resources. Again, these are due February 26th and March 19th. What you're going to do is look at, there are documents in here. You get a lesson template with instructions, and that should load up for you. Unfortunately, because I'm screen recording, it's going a little bit slower, but this gives you a lot of specific information, questions you should be answering as you're going through the document. And then you have 2 templates in the folder, and I'm going to show them to you in clean copies, but you get them as a Word document, which again, it comes up in here. What you want to do is make sure that you download the document. You see mine came down in the bottom of the screen down here where my cursor is. Mine worked as a download there. Doing it on the PDF template, it's going to open up here in just a second. Now if you notice, the PDF did not come down into my downloads. You can fill in the form on here in this window. However, it's not going to save your work like this in Blackboard. You need to scroll up here. See this little arrow here that says download? You absolutely must download this form to your computer and choose a place to save it so that you make sure you have a clean copy to re-upload. Because if you fill it in here, you can't upload it to me when you page through 2 slides later in Blackboard. So I want to show you firstly the PDF form, because I think this one is a little bit easier to work with. If you have Adobe Acrobat Reader or Adobe Acrobat, it's going to come up like this and you can just fill in the form. Word, it doesn't keep the formatting as clean, and if you're like me and you're really picky about it moving things around a whole lot and messing up the margins and the page breaks, that doesn't happen on the PDF form. It's also a lot easier for me to grade, but I know not everybody has this program. You can get it for free on the Adobe website. Just Google Adobe Acrobat. You can download a free copy of it as Reader. But if you need to use the Word document, the Word version, that works in Microsoft Word. You can convert it to a Google document or open it on a Mac. It should work in the Mac version of Office as well, or in OpenOffice software. But on the PDF form, so you're going to type in your name, and remember, again, you have to download it first to your computer. Type in your name, the subject, let's say I'm making mine math. You can always hit the tab key to just kind of bounce downward in these. Let's say my topic or unit is sorting, and my grade level is pre-kindergarten. So I'm going to choose 20 minutes for my time allotment because anything beyond that is kind of too long for a pre-K classroom. My standards, I'm going to put the anchor and a colon and then type out the whole standard. You can either do it that way or you can put the anchor, colon, and then put the standard on the next line. Doesn't matter. I'm not too picky on the formatting within here, but you do need the anchor and the standard. The anchor, remember, is that little code designation. My unit goal, I'm going to type it according to the format that we use during class. So I'm going to say in the instructional unit, not united, titled sorting, students will sort objects, and that's my their concept. We'll sort objects, that's their concept and their competency, I guess. Sort objects by 1 and 2 attributes. Now, if you notice what happened here, is this little thing over here happened that it allows me to page through. Don't panic if you can't see the rest of it. I will be able to see it by doing this. So don't sit there and try to change fonts or anything like that. I am able to do this. And even if you print it, it's not going to come up all the way. It's going to cut it off. I'm not going to print things to grade it. I'm going to do it digitally because I like to save paper and trees. So I'm using my instructional goal format in the instructional unit titled Sorting. Students will sort objects by 1 and 2 attributes. This unit extends beyond the classroom because properly identifying objects by their attributes is necessary in adult life. And I know that's kind of a cop-out, but I'm doing this as an example, so I'm not going to be too oddly specific on it. In objectives, I always start with upon successful completion of this lesson. That's me. You don't have to use that phrase. It's not required as part of our ABCD format. I'm going to say upon successful completion of this lesson, pre-kindergarten students, that's my audience, will be able to, and then I put a colon there, and the first thing that I want them to be able to do is sort attribute blocks by color. Okay, so if you notice, or I'm going to put this in small groups in the block center. So I have my verb, my behavior is sort. My condition is that they are sorting in small groups in the block center. The materials they are using are blocks. My second thing is that they will be able to sort attribute blocks by shape. Shape individually. So that's changing the condition on that, and I want them to be able to describe the rule they use to create sorting groups. And using a sorting rule is a math skill in pre-K. If that doesn't make sense to you, that's all right, but that's kind of the terminology that's typically used. So I have my audience of pre-kindergarten, my behavior, sort, describe, my conditioned attribute blocks by one color in small groups in the block center, blocks by shape individually, and describing the rule. They're describing rules, that's the condition there. As I mentioned, the degree, the success criteria, you are allowed to put in the assessment area for this course only. If you prefer to do it this way, audience pre-kindergarten, behavior, sorting, condition, blocks in the block center in small groups, or we want to say sorting by color. Then for our second one, we can do the same here for A, B, C, and if you notice, you're getting that scroll bar over here on the right, but I'm going to do this again, pre-kindergarten, sorting by shape, blocks, I realize I'm making typing errors, but blocks in the block center individually, and then I could put my third one. You may choose if you want to do this style, which is here. That's how I write objectives. It's my personal preference, but that doesn't mean it has to be your personal preference because I still have my ABCs covered in there. If it's easier for you to be sure that you have all of those three elements by doing it that way, for this class, with me as your instructor, it is acceptable. It may not be in other courses in your degree program. So just be clear, because this is an introduction for you, I want you to make sure you have the parts. Here is your degree. Your assessment criteria is that children will sort at least 90% of the blocks correctly, and that children will be able to define a sorting rule verbally to an adult. Again, that's my assessment criteria, and that's my success criteria. That's the degree. 90% defining a sorting rule verbally to an adult. As I go onto my second page, my anticipatory set, that's my hook that I get children excited about the lesson. So I might just put, step 1, the teacher will hold up a block and ask the children to say one word about it. And children responses may include red, square, hard, small, all of these words. And so then, they do that. And then we say, teacher gives each child a block to think about description words. They can tell a neighbor 2 words about their block. That gives the children a little bit of excitement. They're included, they're engaged, they're talking about things, they are talking about their blocks. In the body, this is the actual task at hand. So we've gone from a whole group anticipatory set to the body. Teacher will break children up into small groups and dismiss to centers. Teacher will provide children with a basket of attribute blocks and a sorting placemat for shape. Children will take turns placing a block on the appropriate shape on the mat until all blocks are sorted. And then, I'll go on and continue this, and that say maybe I would move it to a table activity for the individual task of sorting by color, by shape, however I put it in my introduction. But I do want to make sure that I realize now that my activity does not specifically match up with the order of things, but I am trying to give you an example of the anticipatory set. The body and the closure should be step by step. It is easier to do that if you number it instead of write it in paragraph form. The closure is each child will be asked to tell an adult the sorting rule that they used for their blocks before they are dismissed from the block center. And that is our closure. That is our final assessment. Can they define a sorting rule? Differentiated instruction, I might have struggling students only have to sort by color, not shape. Then when we go down here for our extension, we may have more advanced students may sort by 2 attributes of color and shape. I realize I spelled color wrong. Now you also want to look at, I will not be grading for this course Tier 2, Tier 3, and IEP differentiation. The reason for that is we just don't in an introductory course have the time to really and fully address these different elements for response to intervention tiers. And also looking at IEPs, you haven't had an introduction to special education yet, so it's just not appropriate to have these expectations for you. So that is an accommodation I'm leaving for you. You do not have to complete that. My materials that I need as a teacher might be my pre-K class inventory for skills so that I can check those off on my observation. The student materials, I'm going to need attribute blocks, a basket, and my sorting placemats, which was something I always had in my classroom to help students sort different objects. If you actually teach the lesson to a group of children, you can do a reflection. You are not expected to teach it, so it is okay to just put a prediction. Here is where I think children may struggle. Here is where I expect children to have success. That is up to you. Just kind of putting a little bit of a prediction on how you think the lesson is going to go and where you think it may be a bit of a struggle, and also reflecting on your experience with developing the lesson plan. It was harder than I thought to type out a full procedure. I think I have closure right, but I'm not quite positive. Can you give me some feedback in my assessment? those are the type of things that it's okay to put in a reflection at this point, especially if you're not actually teaching the lesson. But if you're working with students and you want to teach the reflection or teach the lesson, then you can fill in an actual lesson reflection here. After that, you would just click Save and make sure it's ready to upload into Blackboard. Now, if you choose to do it in Word, like I mentioned, the template looks like this, and as you type into it, it's going to move things in the boxes all around. It's going to change how things appear in pages. It's almost all set up in tables, so it's not too crazy, but in the anticipatory set body enclosure, you may run into things going on with the bulleting and numbering, and that's up to you if you want to mess around with that. Like I said, for me, it's a little bit more of a headache to work on a form in Word than it is in the PDF, but go with the software you have and the capabilities you have. I would prefer very much that you not print this and handwrite it and then send me an image of your handwritten work. I'd like you to get a little bit more comfortable with using the computer. So that is something that I am strongly encouraging you to do. But if you're, grossly intimidated by the idea of typing everything in and submitting it, we can talk about that. You can see the lesson plan rubric. That's exactly what I'll be using. I recommend that anytime you do an assignment, review it yourself on the rubric and see how you're doing. I give you all of the scoring criteria ahead of time, all the time. The Gannon lesson plan rubric is used across the entire department. Everybody uses the same thing. And because I had mentioned that in differentiated instruction, the only areas, oh, it's moving all around on me. The only areas that you have to fill in is for differentiated instruction. I'm going to ask you to put in that box something for struggling learners, for extension, something for learners who are clearly competent and ready for more of a challenge. You do not have to cover Tier 2 or Tier 3. I will ignore that part of the rubric for this class, as well as IEP accommodations. So I will just be looking for adaptations for struggling learners and obviously competent learners who need an extension. So you're most likely going to get bonus points in there just because we don't have as many things to fill in. And I think that's all I really need to look at. The difference, there are points here. If you see no errors in grammar, mechanics, spelling, and usage, and turned in on time, that gets you that full 4-point value in there. If you do have a few errors in grammar and usage, that scores you down 1 point. It's up to you if that's worth taking it. And then when you're all ready, you just click on where it says submit the assignment, and you'll come up with the opportunity. You're going to attach the file, so you're going to browse your computer, find the file where you saved it, and it says here you're allowed to either use the docx, which is Word, or the PDF, either or. If you use Google Docs and put it in a Google Drive, you can hit share and use that share link and just put that in under a text submission, write submission, and you can put Google Doc link here if you're familiar with using that platform. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's fine. Just use the 2 files that I mentioned, and you're just going to hit browse my computer and attach there, and then submit. And I will score it and send it back to you. This due date is incorrect with how I have changed them according to the new syllabus. So now I know I have to change that. It's due February 26th for the first one. Let me know if you have questions before then, and thanks for watching this tutorial.